I'm Jake Miller from McCook, Nebraska. Thankfully, I've never been through a large fire. We've had a little pasture burn up and just a little lightning, and the rain put itself back out. Nothing major to compare with anything any of you guys have been through. I've tried wrapping my mind around this. I went to school with several kids that are down from Ashland, and I can't wrap my mind around it. I don't want to, I guess. It's just thankful for everybody that makes it out and the houses that are still standing if they're there, and we get the chance to rebuild and start over, I guess. So, I'm going to talk about some of the damage done. I'm going to talk about more of the grazing aspect and soil health of it. I guess some of the damage done is we've removed all our residue, we've buried our ground up, we're evaporating our moisture now, allowing our ground to blow. The weed pressure is going to come in, and Mother Nature is going to put something there, whether we put a seed in the ground to grow or it's weeds that are there or whatever already. Like I mentioned, erosion, that's going to be our wind erosion, and then also we get a large rain event after this. We're going to run some soil off. I guess one of the biggest predicaments it puts you in, most guys have their hay piles burn up. Whatever forage you did have is gone now, and you're going to get a lush green regrowth, and it's tempting to graze it, but I truly think that it's got to stay on the soil to start rebuilding your residue bank and keep stuff from blowing. I guess if we're trying to see the silver lining in this, there are some advantages to fire. You look at eastern Kansas, and they just burnt 2.3 million acres last week. It's a completely different environment. It's going to be used less out here, but some of the advantage of this, where the plants were in a dormant state, it shouldn't have hurt anything. It all should come back, I think. The non-desirable plants were burned as well, like Don had the pictures of, the yuccas, the sage. Some of that type of stuff is going to be damaged, and we could see more diversity and regrowth from whatever we've manipulated, from different grazing times, different planting periods. We could see more of what the native range looked like coming back. The regrowth will be lush and plentiful with adequate moisture. Like I said, that's going to be tempting to graze, but I think deferring your grazing and using flash grazes on small parcels of land quick and allowing rest is going to be the easiest way to recover from this and the most effective recovery over a shorter time period to get you back where you want to be sooner. Grazing the grasslands, if you're not doing it already, I would highly recommend rotational grazing. When we're going to start grazing this, at least let your cool season grasses completely mature, so when you do turn the cattle in, there's going to be a grass in there that's hard or something they're not going to eat down to the dirt right away. And from my standpoint looking in, it's a lot easier said than done, I know. When you look in and say, do this, do that, I know it can't happen. But let the grass get as mature as possible for the first couple of years. And if you've got places that the sand blew or the dirt blew, use some of this polywire, fence around them, don't let the cattle on that. I know it's going to be some extra work, but it should pay off in the years to come. I think the biggest key is going to be getting an armor back on the soil, getting some residue down, reducing your erosion, evaporation, and regaining your water and nutrient cycle back into the operation. When we're talking about grazing the warm season grasses, I know everybody's going to be in grass when the warm seasons are growing. If you have to be in at that time, use rotational grazing, allow plenty of rest time on that acre, and reduce your stocking rates if at all possible. Talk about some supplemental grazing at this point. I realize a lot of this is, the oats and barley and triticale. I know there's been seed moved into the areas. guys have seeded it in, whether it's on native range, I don't know, or dry land, wherever it is, this is going to be one chance you have to graze sooner. We've learned that like rye, triticale, oats, barley, if you can graze it once, very light and very fast before joining, that's going to stimulate that plant to tiller, and you should end up with more plants later on. So if you graze it quick once, a quick flash graze, let it mature till it starts getting ready to shoot ahead, and then get more intensive to mob graze it, getting enough cattle in a tight enough area just to lay all that armor down on the soil. That should cover it up and give you the option to get away from some hay for a little bit, and it should help the moisture stay in that ground and keep it moving forward. Like I just said, graze when the seed head starts to shoot from the boot. Some summer forage options that may be a good route with the economic situation of the crop prices. Trying to give that native range a break here if at all possible. Your sorghum sedans, millets, sun hemp, sunflowers, cowpeas, brassicas, all of that type of stuff can be thrown into one mix. Where I'm at, we're using some sorghum sedans and stuff out here. You guys are a little bit more arid than we are. Probably looking more at the millets. But anything we can use, and it's going to be advantageous on the farm ground as well, just to be able to get some diversity out there, another crop growing, get the cattle on there, get some manure back on there. The biggest key in any of this, I think, is just leaving the residue. Get something out there and leave the residue to keep anything from blowing or washing away. Stuff to think about this fall to graze next spring, because I still wouldn't feel comfortable personally just turning on the grass next spring like normal yet. I would try and give it 2 years of very light grazing. I guess when we're talking about grazing the native range, I personally feel that it is more harmful to range not to be grazed than it is to set empty. When I say that, that's proper grazing. I mean, we might be like a quarter, a third of the stocking rate, only be on 1 acre for 2-3 days at the max, let it rest the rest of the time, and we're moving through quick, doing that type of deal, just something to get the plant material down in contact with the soil. If the cattle bite it once, we're stimulating regrowth on the plant and just getting a little stamina back in the plant, something for it to start growing instead of no competition with no other weeds or grasses or anything competing. Rye and triticale really, and you could be putting some wheat in the mix also, something like that. That's going to give you some options for this time next year. Might be a deal too, where you plant some rye or triticale, and then you have some wheat that, if you need it for grazing, graze it quick once. You may still make grain. Give yourself some options about being able to harvest the wheat if you need to, if you have extra forage or whatever. I think the biggest thing in this, work with Mother Nature, keep it simple, don't overgraze anything, don't leave the cattle in one spot for an extended period of time, give the ground plenty of rest. I'm going to put these up here. That is just one of our native range pastures that we're rotational grazing. It's all broke up. I realize that a lot of the native range is not like that. It's not feasible to go set it up in 1 year, but that's what all this fencing stuff that we're going to talk about here in a second can be put up, very cost effective. It can be set up, moved quick, and used that way. This is just an example of a crop field, but when we graze that, I'm going to run a steel wire right there and a steel wire right there, and the black lines are just examples of where the poly wire is going to go when we're intensive grazing that. And I'm going to have two up at all times and just leapfrog one another on past each other. When we're talking about grazing the rye or triticale or oats or something, the first flash graze, I'm going to just have that steel wire up, no poly wires. Get in, eat the top off quick, move out. Then we're going to let that rest until that seed boot's getting ready to come out. That's when we get intense and section them down a little bit. Some of the fencing stuff, I do have a fencing supply company. I'm not here to promote that at all today. I'm trying to show you guys the tools that are available. Get them from your local people that carry your stuff. But this poly wire right here, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's basically a rope with wire filaments going through it. You can put it on these reels. These reels are geared 3-to-1, so you can reel it up easy. A side note, when you do use this stuff the first time and you're reeling it up, make sure your reel, there's a ratcheting noise, because otherwise you're going the wrong way and you're going to have a mess. But you should be able to hear it quicken as you reel it up. When you use that, you're going to need a good fence charger. It does not carry the juice like steel wire does. We've got solar chargers now that are much better than the ones you buy in the typical farm stores. That is one thing I would caution, is use a good fence charger on this, because it will not carry the juice like steel wire does. Step-in posts, there's a couple different types of them. Everybody has their own personal preference. Pigtail posts, these are simple to use. I prefer these when the ground is not frozen. When the ground is froze, I'm using the plastic type of step-in post. There's only one steel spike to put in. You can drill a hole with the cordless drill if you need to, and it goes in. We do graze 365 days a year in our operation. There's no hay, so we're putting fence in and out every day. And these are all tools we're using. If you're looking for something permanent or semi-permanent, all of our cross fences in our pastures are built out of these 1/2-inch fiberglass posts. There's a stainless steel clip on here to run the steel wire through. Very seldom do the deer tear these down or pull it off the clips or anything. They're cost effective. This post is $2.30. They're used more on our place than any other post. We use these on our perimeters around crop fields and everything now. And then there's this is a little stouter fiberglass post. It's got holes drilled every 2 inches in it. This is the one, if you get equip money, this is the Geotech post you're going to have to use on your equip money. There's a 5.5-inch cotter key that goes through here to hold the wire. You guys feel free to come up, mess with any of the stuff, look at it, do whatever you want with it. Like we talked about the fiberglass, and that was one of our biggest concerns, whether they would burn if we got in fire. I really didn't know. I've shattered a couple and threw them in the burn barrel, and they last a long time in there. So, just something else to think about when we talk about rebuilding all the fence infrastructure that we've got. Do we need to go back in with barbed wire? Barbed wire is the most expensive fence you can put up now. If you use the T-posts like Don talked about, you're going to save a little bit of money there versus all creosote posts. But our cross fences, like I said, with the high tensile wire and that fiberglass post, we're putting up single strand cross fences. All the perimeter fences around our crop fields are all single strand high tensile. I'm putting a wood post at every corner, every bend, and we're putting that in for 15 cents a foot. If you feel on perimeter fence, you need a little bit more. A 4-wire high tensile fence, using a wood creosote post and 3 of these bigger ones. and then another wood. A fence like that put up is gonna run you 48 cents a foot, roughly. And then in comparison, to go a barbed wire, 4-wire barbed wire fence, compare it to the high tensile. Now this price is with all creosote posts in there, but you're at 93 cents a foot. That price is only materials. But I just put that in there so you can see that you can put a fence up for half price of the traditional fences everybody's using. That is a pretty big factor, I guess, if you start thinking about all the dollars worth of fence that are on every ranch or every farm in this country, and you have to go back and replace it all. Here's my contact information if anybody wants it. Anybody at this meeting or anybody that watches it, if you guys are affected by the fire, call me. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to give anything away for free, but I will work with you and we'll get you the best price we can. Like I said, I'm not here to promote my business at all. I'm trying to give you guys what I think would be the keys to the grazing information. But I will work with you if there's something that we can get to you to help you out. So I guess with that, I'll take any questions anybody has.
How do you get the fiberglass posts out of the ground? They've been in there 25 years and they're all rubbery. You can't pull them out with anything. They just shatter when you try lifting them back out of the ground.
I don't have that problem. I guess all of them we use, they have the white PVC coating on them.
Well, that eventually breaks and goes away, and then you just have fiberglass strands.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some that are grainy. I guess the longest, I think we've had some in the ground. Dad started putting them in. I think ours have been in probably 22 years, the oldest ones, and I guess we haven't had the need to pull them either, but we just grab them with a pair of pliers, I guess. Pull them when we do. We don't have a lot of trouble with it, I guess, but.
We had some that were been in like 94, 95, but we tried pulling them last year because they're all broken into the ground, even on the, but you can't break them off or do anything with them.
Yeah.
And you just snip them off the ground and left the fiberglass in there because we couldn't pull them out.
Yeah. I guess the only ones I've had broke off on the ground or something that I ran into with the mower or something, and I didn't try and pull it, I just left it, so. I guess if there's
I
any.
was just wondering if there was a trick.
Not that I know of. No.
The old ones were
Okay.
And then what do you figure the lifespan is? 50 years?
Of the high tensile or?
Yeah, if you went with the high tensile full.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't personally had any up long enough to know. But the first we put in was 22 years ago and we haven't had any trouble with it. I mean, occasionally, you know, after enough years of use and enough deer run through it, that clip may get loose and we put a new one on and we're good to go. But other than that, there's way less maintenance on it than barbed wire.
Yeah, just a clarification, the fiberglass posts that we used were, I think, 7/8 oil field sucker rod.
Yeah.
They didn't burn.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's a lot of 1.25 inch sucker rod out there now too.
We used the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
So if you were to replace a traditional 4-wire barbed wire fence with a system like that, you do 2-wire?
Yeah, I mean, we've done 2-wire around some CRP fields, I guess,
Yeah.
and we never have any trouble with cattle getting out or anything. We do a 2-wire, we make both wires hot. If we have 3 wires or more, we go every other one and ground one.
What kind of a fence route is best? You got calendars.
And I'm not out to bash any brands. All I'll say is I would use a Cyclops or a Stay Fix from what I've found.
Okay.
We've tested several of them, and those two seem to. And Stay Fix and Speed Rider are the exact same thing now. If you have a local company that sells either of them, the color of the case is the only difference on them.
I will add, want to make sure that you have a ground rod for every 6 joules of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. A good ground rod.
If not more.
Yeah. That's the bare minimum. I got one system with a 24 joule fencer, which means I've got 5 ground rods. And it didn't work until I put 5 ground rods on it.
Within the last 2 weeks, we had a fencer problem that, anyways, I ended up meeting this electrical engineer who installs fencing systems. And what he is using for ground rods now is he goes to Home Depot and buys big bundles of 1/2-inch copper pipe and uses a 10-foot stick and drives 5 of them in the ground at each charger, no matter how big it is. And one of the neighbors about a mile away had a water heater shorting out. He was drawing the current to it. He was running 110 through his fence through the ground. He is over my head. He knows about all the ohms and everything, and I don't know, it was over my head. But if anybody has any questions like that, I do have a contact now to put you in contact with.
How to get your water heater to steal electricity.
Yeah. So if there's any other questions, I'll take them, otherwise we'll move on.
Rick, I think it's just important to note that you don't want to start grazing with the craft that you have in the shed. Go by the good stuff.
Right, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to say that. When we started using step-in posts, we had looked at them, and of course you don't know if you're going to like them, so they went on sale at Orscheln's for like $1.99. We bought every one they had at the 4 closest Orscheln's stores, and they were all junk within the first 3-4 months. Pins in them, all the feet had broke off of them. There's this post here is the Stay Fix Speedrite step-in post. Gallagher's got a new one I like. It's got a round ring on the top, and where most of these, I don't know if you can see it back there, but they've got a bend in here and everything's pieced together. The Gallagher one is a straight rod with a cast piece that is formed onto here. I haven't used many of them yet, but what I have used, they seem like a good post. They're about comparable price to these. Just if you guys are curious, these are about $4 a post, and these are right in the $3.50 range, I think. I know there's some O'Brien post is the brand name. They're the plastic I-beam posts like this that a lot of guys like. If you buy any of the poly braid, do not buy any brand other than PowerFlex. It's stronger than any of them. The conductivity is better on it. They've got some different grades. All of them are good. The only difference you're getting in the grades is whether it's stainless steel tinned wire in there or copper, and the Stay Fix reel is what I'm using. Yeah, Clay?
With the poly, do you just tie a knot, splice it, or how do you splice that?
You can tie a knot and splice it, or they do make some steel connectors so you get better conductivity. If you start tying knots in that to splice it, you do lose juice on the other side.
You can take a little strip of like just a little piece, like 17 gauge wire, and just wrap it around both sides of the knot. That'll transmit a lot better. I've started using steel connectors. I forgot to bring it. One thing I was going to bring, they have a rope that's a 1/4 inch in diameter. It's a poly rope just like this. All of our crop fields, like I had the picture of, we've moved to that now. All I do is I've got a lot of pieces that are spliced together with the steel splices now. I make a splice that's the same size as my strip. I use the GPS on the tractor to make a straight line so I know that my lines are parallel on all my fences and it stays the same width across. And then I just use the 4-wheeler and I just drag that rope. I zigzag it around, I never reel it up anymore. Saves time, and the ropes, we've been doing that for 2 years now, and it's holding up just fine. So. Anything else? You guys feel free to come up, play with any of the stuff you want. I guess with that, we'll move on.